Hi friends! So the book we're going to read now is called Benny's Brigade, and it's a beautiful book about friends going and exploring. And I know in the first video I said that I was going to read 4 books, and I was reading through this on my own, this alphabet book, and I realized this is not exactly the type of book I wanted to read to you today, so I'm going to pick a different alphabet book for tomorrow. So we're going to move on to Benny's Brigade. Wow, look at all these beautiful pictures of nature. Animals and plant life. Elsie and Theo were sisters. Elsie was the older sister, but not by much. Some people thought Theo sounded like a boy's name, but Theo always explained that she was named after her great aunt Theodosia, who was a girl a very long time ago. One morning, Elsie and Theo were walking to school when they saw a strange nut wiggling on the ground. "Why is it wiggling, Elsie?" asked Theo. "I don't know," said Elsie. "Ooh, I wonder what's in the nut." Elsie picked up the nut and watched it bounce up and down on her hand. Boing, boing, boing. If you hold your hand out, too, you can pretend that you have a nut in your hand and you're bouncing it up too. It's bouncing, it's bouncing. Then she held it close to her ear. A tiny voice called out to her from inside. "Let me out, please, let me out." There she is listening to the nut. What could it be? She's thinking maybe it could be any one of these things inside of the nut. Theo found a small rock, just big enough to crack the shell, but not so big that it would hurt whoever was inside. Very carefully, the 2 girls opened up the wiggling nut. Do you see the rock they used? There's a little animal watching. Out of the broken shell crawled an extremely small walrus. "Why, thank you," said the walrus, brushing himself off. "Thank you very much." They cracked open the shell with the rock. The walrus was inside. The walrus was so grateful and happy to be out of the nut that he kissed both of the girls upon the backs of their hands. They could feel his tiny whiskers brush against their skin. "I really don't know how it happened," said the walrus, "but somehow I became stuck inside that nut, and I'm quite sure I never would have gotten out of it if it weren't for you 2 fine girls." He's saying thank you. There's Elsie, and there's Theo's hand. "I thought walruses were bigger than you," said Elsie. Yes, most of them are," said the walrus, "but I am an example of a very small walrus. And there is nothing wrong with that." "What's your name?" asked Theo. "I am Benny," said the walrus, "and I am most pleased to meet you." Theo and Elsie gave Benny some of their lunch because he was hungry after all that time stuck inside the nut. He liked their pretzels best because their salty taste reminded him of the sea from where he had come. "Would you like to come to school with us?" asked Elsie. "Why, yes, I believe I would," said Benny. At school, none of the other children believed there was such a thing as a walrus who could fit in someone's pocket. But then Theo pulled Benny out of her pocket, and everyone had to admit that they were wrong. Each of the children wanted to hold Benny, but he said, "Please, too much handling is bad for my skin. How about I sing you a song instead?" Can you find Benny? I don't see him over here. Could he be... Oh, there he is! In Theo's pocket, safe and sound. So Benny sang them a walrus song which went like this. Oh, to be back in the sea, where a walrus can swim free. Such a wish is good for fish, but it's also fine for me. Wow. Those are all the sea creatures that he used to live with in the sea. I wonder if he wants to go back home. And then, poor Benny. He began to cry because he missed his life back in the ocean. Don't ever crawl inside something dark and mysterious, boys and girls, said Benny. I should never have gotten inside that strange nut. The boys and girls all agreed that they would not crawl into dark holes and caves without knowing what lay ahead. Then they decided to build Benny a boat, a very small one, which they could place in the nearby creek. Perhaps that creek would lead to the ocean, and Benny could return home. Looks like they're using some glue, some tape, some pencils, some string, some scissors, and a milk carton. Looks like they're trying to build this ship up here. They built Benny the finest boat any of them had ever seen. It even had a proper sail made from a fresh piece of cloth. On it, they wrote Benny's Brigade. Can anyone see the sail on the boat that they made that says Benny's Brigade? I'll give you a hint. It looks like a triangle. Yay! You found it. What's a brigade? Asked Benny. A brigade is a group of soldiers, said Gus, the boy who'd written the words. But I don't have a brigade, said Benny, a little sadly. And that's when they heard a chorus of tiny voices coming from underneath a log. We'll be your brigade, said the voices. Gus and Elsie lifted up the log, and there stood 3 healthy, fat slugs ready for adventure. There they are. 1, 2, 3 slugs. Can you count the slugs too? 1, 2, 3. Please take us with you, cried the slugs. All day long we sit under logs and stones, and we've never sailed on a boat before. Several of the children pointed out that the 3 slugs did look a little bit like small walruses, and Benny announced that he would be glad to have their company even if they were a bit different than him and covered in slime. You will not be sorry, cried the slugs. Wait until you see what fine companions slugs can be. Here the slugs are, waiting to get onto Benny's Brigade. Then the teacher called the boys and girls inside to begin school. Quickly, Elsie and Theo took the little boat, loaded with its special crew, to the small creek which ran near the playground. They set the boat down and watched it float away. Let's give Benny some wind so he can sail away. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job. Some ducks and geese quacked with amazement, and Captain Benny shouted to them a warning. Say back, you noisy ducks. We are headed out to sea. Before the little boat disappeared around the bend, Captain Benny stood up tall on the deck and waved his tiny flipper. "Thank you, Elsie and Theo," he called out. "Thank you, for you have provided us sailors with a fine adventure ahead." "You're welcome," said Elsie and Theo together. They were sorry to see Benny and the slugs go, but now it was time for school, and they had adventures of their own to which they must attend. Bye-bye. There's it goes. It goes down the stream. There he is, right there. The creek carried Benny's brigade through a small forest and then under a bridge. It joined up with a stream, and then the stream became a large river. It was there that the three slugs remembered that they would prefer not to travel all the way to the ocean. Oh, man. There they are in the boat. "It's not that we don't seek adventure," they told Benny. "It's that the salt water will surely hurt our skin."
"Well, that I can understand," said Captain Benny,
for now he also remembered that all slugs detest salt. Oh no, and they're going to a salty ocean? Not good for slugs. They much prefer rainwater. Benny looked ahead of him and saw an island sitting in the middle of the river. It was a very small island, perhaps only the size of a truck, or maybe a bus. But it had rocks and dirt and several trees and was plenty big for Benny and his crew.
"We shall steer that way," commanded Captain Benny, "and there we will stay."
"Hooray!" shouted the slugs. "It's the perfect place for the likes of us." Here's the island. And this is why you never know what wonderful creatures you might find living on an island, even a very small one like this. Wow. So many different animals. The end. Thank you, friends, for joining me for Benny's Brigade. See you soon.